You want me to put that on my todger?
The kids know. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The recent Invictus Games has provided us with many opportunities to see Harry's wife's narcissism in action, and there's still plenty to unpick. One of the interesting things that has repeatedly occurred with regard to Harry's wife is the way that children behave around her. Plenty of mystery appertains to the existence of her own children, with many people still believing that they do not exist. Certainly, we rarely see from them. But what about her interactions with other children? I have explained previously that Harry's wife lacks natural warmth. This is because, as a narcissist, she has no emotional empathy for other people. This means that she has no empathic traits of caring, honesty, decency, compassion, a strong moral compass, etc. Instead, as a mid-range narcissist, her narcissism must emulate those traits, fabricate them. With some narcissists, this can be done extremely well, conning people. With others, there are glitches, and in some instances, it's done very badly indeed. A lot of people now see through Harry's wife as a consequence of material such as that generated by me, alongside their own natural reading of the situation when they have seen the way that she has behaved. But there are still others who are taken in, who think that she is a nice person, who think that she is pleasant and caring, etc. One group of people that regularly seems to see through her straight away is that of children. We have seen an excellent video which I have dissected previously, where I think there are two young children that their mothers are trying to push towards Harry's wife some time ago, and neither are interested in meeting her or having anything to do with her. Now, it might be said that young children are shy and therefore wary of meeting strangers. That is true. But then there are other children that heartily embrace somebody that they meet, and others who do as they're told when their parent says you must go and speak to this person, introduce yourself, etc. But we've repeatedly seen that children shy away from Harry's wife, and it happened again at the Invictus Games. As reported in GB News, Harry's wife appeared to be ignored by one person at the Invictus Games, with a video clip showing the guest at the event running away from the Duchess of Sussex. A young girl who attended the event seemed unbothered by Harry's wife when she approached the crowds. The toddler was spotted being greeted by the Duchess, who was meeting NATO chiefs in footage shared by Invictus Games guest Sarah House. The clip showed Harry's wife kneeling as she said hello to the young girl, who then runs off and ignores her. However, Harry's wife appeared unfazed and continued welcoming well-wishers. Now, what do we learn from that interaction? Well, first of all, the child is a tertiary source to Harry's wife, which means that the fuel provided by the child is not particularly potent. The child ignoring her and running away presents two problems for her. That demonstrates that the child is not under control, and also wounds Harry's wife. The wounding is actually fairly substantial. Why? Well, even though the fuel that is to be provided is not particularly potent, the problem for Harry's wife is that being ignored in person always causes significant wounding to a narcissist, because an in-person interaction is where the narcissist anticipates the greatest receipt of fuel. It's a little bit like you're turning up expecting a banquet and you're given a water biscuit instead. The disappointment is huge. Similarly, where the narcissism anticipates an in-person interaction with somebody and therefore anticipates lots of different strands of fuel, the way the person is speaking, the tone they're using, their body language, the look on their face, the look in their eyes, etc., and receives nothing, then that increases the extent of the wounding. But the problem doesn't end there for Harry's wife. It's extended by the fact that it took place in public and other people saw this. Thus, there is the added lack of control and the fact that other people have witnessed it. Notwithstanding this double whammy, her narcissism does its job, and the facade remains intact. She doesn't swat the child across the back of her head as the child retreats, or she doesn't announce to the crowd, "What an irritating little shit." Instead, as reported by GB News, she appeared unfazed, and therefore she wasn't able to assert control directly over the child, nor did her narcissism go down the route of asserting control indirectly by causing her to make a remark to the crowd. Instead, her narcissism simply jettisoned. She probably thought to herself, "Rude little bugger," and then moved on. She asserted control by remaining apart from the child, and in her own mind, the narcissism caused her to believe that the child was rude, and therefore, by jettisoning the child in that way, she gains the artifice of control, the facade is maintained, and on she goes, the moment has passed. Accordingly, she's wounded, but deals with the wounding. Her fuel levels will have been sufficiently high to begin with because she was interacting with lots of people. Therefore, the wounding caused by this child and the exposure in front of a small crowd of people does not cause her any major difficulties with regard to fuel levels. And with regard to the issue of control, the narcissism does its job through the third assertion of control. But why is it that children invariably back off from her? As I mentioned earlier, part of it might be that children are shy and they don't want to be exposed to a stranger. But it happens with regularity with Harry's wife. Is it the case that children have some kind of inbuilt narcissist detector? No. What it is that children simply sense that she's not particularly friendly, that they recognise that there is something off about her. Adults generally, even if they recognise that there's something off about a person, social convention causes them to at least be sociable and polite to them. They'll engage in chit-chat before moving on. A child isn't constrained by such conventions. Children, in a way, are a lot more honest. They will say, for instance, "This food is horrible," without realising that it's actually quite rude, and they should say, "No, thank you, I'm not hungry," or at least try the food and swallow some of it. Instead, they'll speak their brains. And it's similar when it comes to the involvement with Harry's wife. They essentially recognise, although they don't consciously think this, that she's not a particularly warm or pleasant person, that she radiates the emptiness that pervades within, and as a consequence of that, this unsettles the children. Her absence of emotional empathy, the absence of a natural warmth and a kind manner, means that children find themselves wary, possibly even frightened of her, with the consequence that their immediate reaction is to get away from her. Not constrained by social convention or niceties, they do that. And thus, it's almost as if there is a manifestation of evil that appears to them, which causes them concern and fear, resulting in them retreating from her. Thus, this is why, repeatedly, children bolt from Harry's wife, and why that then causes wounding to her on a repeated basis. The kids know something isn't right, and therefore they are always going to retreat from her. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.